Welcome to chapter 10. Hope everyone is doing well. And this is our actually our last chapter that we will be covering. Chapter 11 is and it has some good things related to Windows and such, but this is the last Excel chapter before we start preparing for the end of the semester. So we cover in this chapter external data and using it within our spreadsheet. It's really, it's more into business intelligence, which we got into some pretty cool things in the last chapter related to some chart things. But in today's world, data is so available. The ability to fresh data quickly and get external data in and manipulate it and show pictures in terms of what's going on quickly is becoming more and more important. I think in today's environment with the coronavirus going on, the ability to get instantaneous data and to be able to visualize it and analyze it is critical. You can see if you watch any news with what they're doing with terms like flattening the curve, and they're using business intelligence to be able to develop plans within the different systems that we have in our governments and our different disease folks and such. So it helps analyze information, and businesses do the same thing with data all the time. So I'm going to discuss a few things as we go through, but I want to demonstrate first the ability to get data from outside sources that are in different file formats. So the first one is using an XML file. So if you go to data, you have this ability to get and transform data. And the first one we're going to do is from a file, from simply an XML file. And we'll talk a little bit more about XML in just a few minutes. So as I go to this is in your data files, and you can see the format is different. It's right over here, it's an XML document. And we go ahead and we start importing this. So this is pulling from that particular file, and it's transforming it into an Excel form. So what we want to do here at this point is we want to transform our data, okay? And this starts the process of turning this into Excel data. So this is actually information that is in the XML file, which is a different file format. But right here you can see this is what it's pulling from that file and the column headings that you see within that. So that's all good, all right? And there's the data itself. And now we are in what's the Power Query Editor, where we can make some changes and transform this. So for instance, the first one is this date. This is actually a date, and look at the format that it's in. So anytime you want to change the format, this is under the Home tab, under the Power Query Editor, and we have this data type. And right now it's set up as text. We want to set this up as date and time, so it formats it correctly. Another thing that you might want to do, notice the name here is kind of crazy. And also the format, notice that it's over here to the left. This is not text. This is a whole number. And then another thing we want to do is change this name of this column heading. So you go to transform, and right here under any column we can read, because that's the one we have selected. And I'm going to call this TB spa sales dot product ID. I'm going to press OK, and that changes the column heading. Over here, this one's formatted a little bit different as well. It's text. It brought it in as text. We're going to change it to a whole number. And in the fourth column and the fifth, let's say we don't know those. So you can do this as well. Here under Manage Columns, we can choose Remove the Column. So this is only the actual data that we want. So again, this is data that's from an XML file. And then what we can do is choose Close and Load, and it'll bring you the way that we. And there's our data set up in a format. I'm going to rename this, and we're going to call it. Oh, whoops! Escape that. Let me come down here. There we go. XML query. And that's how you do an XML file, bringing it into Excel. Now there's another way of bringing some Excel data. Keep in mind that is now Excel, and we can do whatever we want with that. So another way under data is we can bring things in from a database. And we're going to from Microsoft Access. This again is in our data files, this database 10, and we start that same import process, and it's going to start transforming it. Then we're going to do the sort of type of things. Okay, this is all the different tables that access. If you had BSAD 125, which all of you probably have, you know, we create different tables. So here's where we pick and choose what we want to pull in. Okay, and we want to do the table spa products, that one right there. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and transform this. If you do get any message, you'll choose refresh. It's talking about the date. But again, this looks really similar to what we just did a second ago. But like the product number, let's say we want to rename this. So we go to transform and rename, and let's call it product ID, and press enter, and that will change it. And then we want to make sure that that's whole number, which it is. Okay, and this is a field to establish a relationship between the query tables. So we want to make sure of that, and then we are ready to save and close. And they create a sheet 3, but we're going to call this one database query. We're bringing from outside sources some of this data we can work on in a way that's more conducive in Excel. So this is all about data analysis, and really it's essential to business, education, research, government, and personal use. But this gives us some tools and applications for analyzing data, and what a lot of data analysts will do. And we're just introducing some of the ways of getting this data. So get into creating an Excel query, but that's another thing. And basically, it establishes a connection and displays data. Actually, you know, we just did that with this one, and we pulled it from an Access database. But you know, pull it from a text file, corporate database, online public data, and so forth. And a lot of times, this data can be refreshed because the connection can be live. We use the Power Editor to transform the data before we actually brought it into Excel. And there's lots of things as far as naming and data types and deleting them we've already done. And once that takes place, then you know, you get it up and into Excel by loading it. So a couple things you need to know about external data sources is that you can use data from sources such as corporate and government databases, cloud server feeds, social media sites. That's in the news a lot in the past couple of years. External data sources typically provide more than you need, not quite what you need, part of what you need. So what that Power Query does is allows us to clean up that data, pull out what we want to be able to use. So that XML that we talked about first was extensible markup. That's what this was in its original format. This is for exchanging data online. It has a .xml file extension. And again, remember that's when we deleted a couple of columns from as well. We did the database one, and we did one from a standalone database, but you can also pull from an SQL server and analysis services. And these are applications out there, and there's ways that they can protect the data, but then we can pull some information. We can import data from online and local sources if we choose. Database management systems, they talk about open data protocol, open database connectivity, SQL servers, and things like that where we can get data from. So lots of good things. And once you get the data in, then you can start analyzing it. So online sources include social media also. So you can also get data directly from a web page that has data formatted tables. Web data today tends to incorporate audio visual elements, so you might find it time consuming to locate data that can be imported on a web page. So web content that is designed for importing, however, is generally in a format that's easy to use, like XML. Okay. So pretty cool things as far as getting the data in. And number two, when we move forward, we're going to get in a little bit more into analyze data. Hope that helps you get started. Again, this is XML and database transforming of data. Okay, good luck. We'll move on in just a minute.